For any government to succeed, of course, such government must surround itself with credible personalities that are well informed in different areas, of course, of the human development and ministries or government parastatals and people who should be bold enough to tell the principal what is needful, the truth, regardless of course, whether it might alter the principal or not, but if that definitely will chart the way forward. On this note, I want to welcome you to this exciting moment here in CoWave TV, where we bring your way on by Yas reportage of event as it holds, as it continues to unfold. Just let me leave you with this voice note so that you can listen to this great submission by this wonderful personality who, of course, despite uh, whatever is happening, has remained consistent, well articulated, and informed on matters bordering on the Nigerian state across the social, political, and economic, of course, life of the Nigerian people. Let me start by asking you whether you accept that Bola Tinubu is now constitutionally the president of Nigeria.
Well, I accept that we are in court questioning the validity of that pronunciation and subject to the decision of the court. I will take a clue on how to answer that your question.
Because obviously Mr. Tinubu is now the president of Nigeria, if he reaches out to Peter Obi and the Labour Party, and we understand he has this canny ability to mobilize people to his side of the fence, what do you think ought to be the reaction of Mr. Obi and the Labour Party to such an overture?
In law, you do not approbate and reprobate. You cannot be in court saying that this is an unconstitutional pronouncement, that a man who did not win an election is pronounced the winner, and begin to talk about an alliance. It is an unholy alliance, because you cannot be preaching this way and trying to accept another thing this way. That's the classical definition of being a hypocrite. And we are not that in labor. So we are consistently maintaining our stand subject to the pronouncement of the court.
In that regard, I wonder what you make of the messages that he's pushed out so far and the optics of that in his inaugural speech. Were you inspired by it or were you depressed by it?
I was a bit scandalized by it because a statement was made to be an inaugural speech. And right there in the speech, you could see a man contradicting the exact thing he was saying. Well, I may not blame him. The statement was written for him, but his own utterances, which was not even in the text, ran exactly contrary to exact thing he was saying, meaning he was simply being a mouthpiece to somebody who wrote something. I said it during campaign that I am not moved by anything documented, because that may just be the work of some brilliant professors. I want to hear the candidates talk. I want them to be cross-examined. Let's hear what he would say. Now, let me move into why I said this. A man in his speech said, "We shall consult and dialogue and never dictate." And Piam, he issued the first dictate of his regime. Fuel subsidy is gone.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but because our job is to try and interpret things as accurately as possible. If you interpret that, certainly the way that they are now explaining it, they're saying that he made a reference to the fact that
subsidy is gone, but the reference was the fact that the previous government had only made allowance up till June in the budget. It wasn't him who did it. He was simply acknowledging that the subsidy is effectively gone. Would you concede that to him?
No, I would not. The statement he made was in May. The subsidy was to go by June. In politics, one day is enough to do the miracle or the damage. But what is the essence of you are saying in your inaugural speech that you are going to inflict more pains on the people? He said he was going to lead. Leadership is defined as the ability to influence people through inspiration, not intimidation or manipulation. That was a demonstration of arrogance of power, not humility of purpose. Now, when you are a leader, what is your purpose? Is it to inflict more pains on the people? No. And you have to be humble about it, especially when the problem emanated from the incompetence and dishonesty of leaders, not from the complicity of the people. Now, let me start by saying, so that you do not misinterpret me as ever supporting anything about oil fuel subsidy. If there is anything that irritates me to my bones, it's the issue of subsidy. I wouldn't have voted for anybody who said he was going to maintain oil subsidy. And I'm very serious about that. What is the wisdom in an oil-producing country paying more than 7 point something trillion to foreign countries to refine your oil and send it back to you? You paying their shipping line, you building their refineries abroad, when you have your 4 refineries already built.
So you support his move then?
No, listen to me.
Right.
I am saying that I hate everything about oil subsidy, and I agree with anybody who says it's fraudulent, it's criminal, and has no business in the first place in the Nigerian economy. Like I said.
Well, that's why he removed it.
No. We should be as careful in coming out of oil subsidy as we were careless in going into it. We displayed recklessness and carelessness going into it in the first place. So when you were coming out, you wouldn't be as careless as you were going in. So what I'm saying is, when you want to remove it, there are 2 fundamental bases, and I talk now as an economist, that you must fulfill in order to make sure that you don't destroy the economy before building it post-oil subsidy. And the 2 basic econometrics that you must achieve: you must saturate the system with fuel, and you must ensure there is no monopoly. When you saturate the system with fuel, however, no matter how supply is entrenched, if there is monopoly, the monopoly through Shylock mentality of making profit can still manipulate the supply in order to make sure that the price gets haywire. I give you an example with OPEC. OPEC can throw its weight around. Even when the supply is there and they don't like the price, they simply cut the supply and the price will jack up. That is what is happening in Nigeria. You should factor it in. Some people have been feeding big on that general corrupt tendency of oil subsidy manipulation to fill in their pocket. So when you want to deal with such things, you have to be careful coming out. You don't need to pronounce it. Like I said, why I said it's a demonstration of arrogance of power. It's just, you just want to tell people that as president, my word is law, nothing else. Because the other regime has given you a leeway. What he said is unlawful. He said oil subsidy is gone. No. What he said is not true. He said there was no appropriation for what he knew in the budget for oil subsidy. No, there was. And it ought to end by June. If you end it today, that means the June allocation for oil subsidy will be dyed by some elements of criminal tendencies, because they would have jacked up the price before exhausting the subsidy, which is already a matter of law, which is already in the Appropriation Act. So there was everything wrong with that pronouncement. And it is anti-labor, it is anti-people, not because that I support oil subsidy, but because of the recklessness with which they are managing the exit of the oil subsidy.
Right. Well, the Labour Party did say during the campaign that it would end the subsidy regime. How would it have mitigated the risks?
When you have 51 pipes projected into your official pipe, taking the oil, you have 51 entities that are already corrupt that is going to mitigate against you. Labour say we are going to cut corruption 50% immediately we're coming. We are going to increase the supply of the fuel, granting licenses to modular refineries. We are going to encourage Nigerians to participate freely in the product God has given to them free of charge. When we do that, and we would have done it within even a month, then we will take out oil subsidy, that irritation called oil subsidy. Some criminal leaders led us into oil subsidy that ought not to have been there. Dangote spent $19 billion to rebuild his refineries, and these people have spent more than that, and they could not repair their refineries. You can see the gap in criminality and corruption. That's what they would have taken out. And naturally, you wouldn't even need to talk about subsidy. Oil price will become lower than it is.
But technically, aren't we talking jumping the gun? Because yes, you may agree, and a number of people do, that perhaps he erred in the way that he said it.
As he always
But
does.
the fact remains that the subsidy is still there until the end of June. So technically speaking, I mean, this artificial scarcity is simply being done by people who run fuel stations and all the rest of it, who are artificially jacking up their prices. I mean, there really is no reason for it, is there?
And that is why, as a leader, you would have factored that in. That was what I told you about the monopolist and the inevitability of racketeering in a corrupt society. You, as a leader, would have factored it in and not make that unguarded statement.
Well stated, unambiguously expressed by Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo, that the fundamental issue rocking the Nigerian state is, of course, the leadership dilemma or the poor leadership expressed by those within the corridor of power. They have done nothing, of course, to lift the Nigerian people out of poverty, and their indecisiveness or perhaps actions have repeatedly plunged Nigerians into abysmal decline in terms of social, political, and economic, of course, life of the Nigerian people, where of over 133 million Nigerians, even with the leadership, is described to be multidimensionally poor. Then what is the essence of government to her own people? It is quite unfortunate. Let's hear a very pronounced statement by Abraham Lincoln on leadership and what you should do. I quote, "Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. That's the ability to describe others as they see themselves. Be it be with a leader when he is right. Stay with him when he is still right, but leave him when he is wrong." Wow, that is wonderful. That you are meant to be with a leader when he is right, stay with him when he is still right, but leave him when he is wrong. Yes, could that be the overwhelming reactions of the Nigerians over the statement subsidy is gone? Well, time will tell whether Nigerians are with this position expressed by President Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, regarding the subsidy removal. Don't forget to hit the subscription button. Give us a thumbs up as we continue to bring your way unbiased reportage of events as e dey hot, as e dey shele.